But many managers and other table, business students, people on the street wanted to understand the secret of Daewoo's success. And so they bought this book. Now, why are these warning signals? In every case, the executives, in the interview with the gurus, in the magazine interview, when they're writing the book, they're publicly committing to a way of doing business, and they're locking themselves publicly to that. How easy is it to step back and say, you know, maybe those commitments, what got us here so far isn't right going forward. Very hard to step back. So the question is, why do good companies go bad? Now, the traditional story is a very simple one. Companies are successful. Success breeds complacency and arrogance. Complacency and arrogance leads managers to do stupid things, and when you do stupid things, you fail. It's a very simple story. It's a very simple story. And at its heart is managers who are arrogant and complacent. I would like to tell you a more frightening story. Success is linked to failure in a more fundamental way. Managers make commitments to succeed. Those commitments over time harden, the environment shifts, and when the environment shifts, managers find themselves trapped in the very commitments that led to their historical success. So like this spider in this photo, they are trapped in a web of commitments that they themselves have woven. And the reason this is a more frightening story, I think, is because it can happen if managers see the change is coming, if they're not arrogant, if they're not complacent, if they're hardworking, if they're ethical, if they're all the things that you'd want managers to be. This story can play itself out. So today I want to talk about why good companies go bad. It's focusing on commitments. And the reason that's so important is if you can understand this dynamic, you can avoid it, or if your company finds itself trapped in its historical commitments, you can break free of this web. So that's the beginning of the story. Managers make commitments. They have to make commitments. You cannot succeed in business without making commitments. You have to have a strategy. You have to invest in resources. The problem is that over time, commitments tend to harden. So frames can become blinders. The things that initially provided focus become blinders that constrain our peripheral vision and keep us from seeing what happens outside of where we've traditionally looked. Processes can become routines, ways of doing things that we initially chose because they were optimal, they were the best way to do it, become routines that we simply repeat over and over again, not because they're still the best, but because that's how we've always done things around here, or that's the only way we know how to do things. Resources become millstones, heavy stones that hang around our neck and keep us from responding in an agile fashion when the environment changes. Relationships become shackles. The handshakes that allowed us to succeed with our partners become shackles that keep us from responding. And finally, values harden into dogmas. So commitments, we need them. They're necessary. You cannot succeed without them. First point. And yet we know they harden. They harden as a function of time. They harden as a function of success. They harden as a function of managers explicitly reinforcing their commitments to build on their business model. Over time, commitments harden, and then the environment shifts. Could be a change in regulation, could be a change in consumer demand, could be a change in technology, could be a combination of changes. The environment goes this way or that way or that way. And all of a sudden, companies find themselves in the awkward position that the things that their commitments are good at doing no longer respond to what the environment wants, no longer respond to where people want to work, to what customers want to buy, to where investors want to invest, to where partners want to partner. And a gap grows between what companies can do well and what they need to do to succeed.